Loki's second and final season has finished, and finally we have something in the Multiverse Saga, which is going to be phase 4, 5, and 6, that fans can rally around not just for what it is, like No Way Home or Guardians 3, but also for what it will lead into and for the character growth we got through this story. We know where Mobius stands after the show, we know where Sylvie stands after the show, we know where OB stands after the show, we know where B-15 stands after the show, we know where Miss Minute stands after the show, we know where Ravonna stands, or I guess is stranded after the show, we know where Victor Timely stands after the show, and we definitely know where Loki stands after the show, as the god of stories instead of the god of mischief. So Loki becoming the god of stories is actually a comic storyline where Loki is granted new abilities and becomes a more powerful god because of it. Here in this show, Loki too is granted new abilities and becomes a more powerful god, where the title of God of Stories actually makes sense also, if you consider these timelines he's keeping alive are his stories. So we know where all of these characters stand, except for one, Brad. So welcome to Big Flick Energy, and it's time to discuss what happened to Brad, and is he from the same world as Sylvie? Let's talk about it. So last we saw of him, he pruned Ravonna, and that's it. We never saw him again. But we did see something of his again. You see in Season 2, Episode 1, Brad, otherwise known as Hunter X5, is tasked, like many others, with finding the location of Sylvie. In Episode 2, we find out that X5 found Sylvie in a branch timeline, but did nothing about it and decided to instead live his own life on the sacred timeline as filmmaker Brad Wolfe of famed horror film Zaniac in the 1970s. If you're watching this video, I'm guessing you watched Loki Season 2, so you know what happens after that. But what many people may not remember is Zaniac made another appearance in this show towards the end of the second act of episode 5 of the season. Before Sylvie brings Loki to a bar in this episode and gets Loki to say what he truly wants, we see there's an arcade machine in the bar showing an arcade game for none other than Zaniac. It is possible Brad is in the same timeline as Sylvie and ended up making Zaniac into a movie, or maybe even a game in this world? Is that possible? Definitely. We've got to remember that Brad was in the TVA when the temporal loom failed, the first time, and everybody reverted back to their original timelines, living their lives on those timelines. Except for two, Loki and Sylvie. Sylvie went back to the branch timeline she was on earlier in the season to continue working at McDonald's in the year 1983, which is the same timeline we saw Zaniac as an arcade game in. It's very possible this was Brad's original timeline and that Zaniac is his purpose. The same way as Mobius always talked about jet skis as what he wanted to do despite having no memories of his past life selling jet skis, Brad decided to make a movie called Zaniac despite having no past memories of perhaps his past life where he created that movie or game already, because that's always been his purpose, to create the story of Zaniac. Now, what are the odds Brad is from the same timeline as Sylvie? Higher than you might think, because remember Brad was the one who found Sylvie in this timeline. He could have searched anywhere, but he chose this specific timeline. Why? Maybe because it's actually his past. This is where he made his film, and who knows if he actually saw himself as Brad Wolfe in this timeline already, having made the film Zaniac or the game Zaniac, and that's what inspired him to go back to the sacred timeline and create his own legacy there. He felt a pull to this timeline and a pull to Zaniac. And why did Sylvie choose out of all timelines to go to this one? I have no idea. But at least it shows me that what happened to Brad could have happened to any of the hunters. We were told he was a good hunter, but he was also the only one to go with Renslayer to have a life on the timeline. Possibly because he's the only one that saw what his past life in the timeline was. Nobody else chose to look. What happened to him could have happened to any of the hunters, and even though he definitely made many mistakes along the way, and was very unlikable at times in the show, he got to live out his life on the same timeline as Sylvie, ironically, but he lived it as creator of the famous Zaniac, fulfilling his glorious purpose. So thank you for watching this video. Please let me know down in the comments section below if you agree that this is what happened to Brad, if his actual timeline is the one Sylvie chose, or if you think he went somewhere else, and what you thought about Loki Season 2 altogether. I have another video about the finale on the way as well. And also, I do want to apologize. I've been sick for the last couple of weeks, so I wasn't able to post a second Halloween video that I wanted to about the goated horrorverse, which I'm just going to call the slasher universe. So I wasn't able to post that. I'm hoping I can post it when we get more episodes of Chucky Season 3, or I may just wait until next Halloween season to post it. I'll probably just wait for Chucky Season 3 to continue though. But for now, thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and see you next time on Big Flick Energy, because some big videos are coming on the way.